Hello everyone, what's going on? I'm Gav, the Master974, back again today doing another Valve source code tutorial follow-up video, and today I'm going to be following up on the Gamepad UI tutorial I did earlier on in 2025 by not actually talking about anything that I mentioned in the video that was a problem, but rather something that happened after the fact, which was that the code just didn't want to compile on Linux. Now, I'm going to keep this short and sweet because I really don't have that much to say. Pretty much the discovery I made was that using the Docker method on Linux actually seems to compile the Gamepad UI code as opposed to using the chroot method as it's called, which is what I've covered in a video on the channel already. Now, even with this Docker method, there was one issue that I experienced and you would experience as well, which was that there's a missing header file, stl.h. Now, this isn't used on Windows, so it's only on Linux and presumably Mac as well, where stl is used. So what you want to do is go to Gamepad UI options.cpp, and you need to change the hashtag include of stl.h to something like hashtag include of stl2/stl.h to resolve the problem. Now, to check if you do have this stl2 folder, you need to navigate to your /user/include folder to see if you have an stl or stl2 folder. Now, I tested this on the Steam Deck and had an stl2 folder from the get-go. However, I think on Arch Linux when I was testing this, I didn't. But I think you could do something as simple as sudo pacman-S stl2. And I think on Debian-based Linux, it would be sudo apt-get install stl2 to just get that package and be able to use it and compile this code. Now, another thing that's a potential issue is in Gamepad UI button.cpp. At the very bottom of the file, you'll see a line that says post message to all siblings of type. Now, the thing is, this doesn't work on Linux. Basically what happens is when you try to compile the code, you get an error because it tries to use key values in an incorrect way. So even though it works on Windows, it doesn't work on Linux. So what I found to do as a somewhat hacky solution to this is to just remove the of type and the Gamepad UI button inside of angled brackets. That way all you're left with is post message to all siblings of, then new key values of, and then in speech marks on sibling Gamepad UI button opened, and that should solve the problem. But if you want to be a little bit more safe about it, like what I'm going to do with my source code tutorials GitHub, is instead have above the post message to all siblings of type line hashtag ifdef win32. That way that line only gets executed on Windows, but then after that line add hashtag else, then post message to all siblings of new key values of, and then in speech marks on sibling Gamepad UI button opened, and then after that hashtag endif. Alright everyone, I'm just going to make a little intermission in the video here because I actually forgot to talk about something that was kind of important, but is going to be something that's already applied to my source code tutorials GitHub page, but I'm just going to talk about it anyway. So what you want to do is actually disable the post message to all siblings of type function. And to do that, you need to go to your src folder, go to public, then vgui controls and panel.h. And somewhere near the bottom of the file, you'll see that there's the developer comment saying about that you can't use the post message to all siblings of type function. And so I've already made the change here, but you want to change that to either 0 or win32 if it's 1. If you change that to 1 and this is valid on Linux, then when you go to compile the code, you'll get a bunch of compilation errors. So you want to make sure that this function is commented out and unused on Linux. So with those changes, you can go back to the Docker container to compile the code. Again, I should have said this earlier, but I'm not going to go over how to actually set up this Docker method. That's probably going to be for an alternative Valve source code tutorial going into 2026. If you want me to do a video about that, then please let me know. However, one of the things that I noticed during testing for this video is that Source 2013 Singleplayer just suddenly stopped working on me on my Steam Deck. I have absolutely no idea why this happened, and I must have spent in excess of 5 hours before Christmas 2025 to try and figure out what the hell was going on with this, to no avail. The only thing I have to work with is a message which says failed to load the launcher, and that's it. That is all I have to work with. So if you have any idea what the hell's going on with Source 2013 Singleplayer, the actual application on Linux, then please let me know. I plan on doing a completely separate video talking about this because, as I said, spending over 5 hours with no success. I think someone out there should have some information about what's going on with this, whether it's a global issue or just a localized issue. But I had to resort to loading the mod in question that I'm showing in the video right now through Source 2013 Multiplayer's executable application to actually get this footage so you can see the Gamepad UI working on Linux. Yeah, that is a last resort sort of thing to do, but that's what I had to do to try and get this feature to work, which kind of sucks. As I said earlier, I'll try to keep this short and sweet, so that's all I really have to say for this follow-up video. Please let me know what you think, and if you have any updates or any comments about anything I've said in the video, and I'll see if whatever I decide to do next. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, Happy Shut the Fuck Up, whatever you want to say. And I'm going to see you after Christmas for this aforementioned Source 2013 Singleplayer not working on Linux video. And if I'm feeling particularly up for it, then maybe there's the last Valve source code tutorial follow-up video that I wanted to do as part of this batch of follow-up videos before the end of 2025, but we'll see. So anyway, take care out there, peace out, see you later, have a great day, and see if whatever I decide to do next.